A third of this back garden lawn has turned to thick, spongy moss, and a viral post claims a 65-pence supermarket tub of bicarbonate of soda fixes it better than anything from the garden center. So over 7 days with a treated patch and an untreated control, I put the hack to the test. What showed up underneath the dead moss is the reason most people's results won't last. 2 years ago, this patch of grass looked much like any other in a British back garden. Dense, green, and springy for all the right reasons. Now about a third of its surface is something else entirely. The moss here isn't just a thin layer, it's thick, lush, and dark, with a spongy feel underfoot that soaks up every bit of moisture. You can press your boot into it and watch the imprint hold for a moment. It's the sort of takeover that leaves the mower rattling and the grass underneath gasping for light. The claim making the rounds online is simple. A 65-pence tub of supermarket bicarbonate of soda can clear moss faster and cheaper than anything from the garden center. No complicated kit, no harsh chemicals, just a kitchen staple and a splash of water. The price sits comfortably in the 65 pence to 75 pence range, depending on which supermarket shelf you reach for. But the real question isn't whether the tub is cheap. It's whether the hack can actually deliver outdoors, where the weather and the ground don't care about viral promises. For this test, the plan is straightforward. Treat one patch, leave another untouched, and check both every day for a week. Each change gets photographed, logged, and compared. No filters, no clever angles, just honest evidence from the same battered lawn. The goal is to see what really happens on the ground, not just what looks convincing in a before and after post. Both test patches measure up the same, each about a square meter, each thick with moss, and both sitting under the same line of fence, where the early sun fades by lunchtime. Neither spot sees much foot traffic, and both soak up the same amount of rain. This way, the only real difference is what goes on top. One patch gets the bicarbonate treatment, the other stays as it is, letting the weather do what it will. That's the control, so any change can't just be blamed on luck or a passing dry spell. The recipe is as simple as the viral posts claim. 3 tablespoons of bicarbonate of soda stirred into roughly a liter of tap water. No fancy tools, just a clean garden sprayer and a bit of patience to make sure it all dissolves. The mix goes on during a dry morning, when the dew's lifted and there's little risk of rain washing it away before it can do its job. A quick home pH check on both patches shows the soil sitting at around pH 5 to 6, right in the sweet spot for moss. That's fairly acidic, and part of why the moss thrives here. Bicarbonate of soda, being alkaline, is expected to nudge the surface pH closer to 8, at least for a while. This shift is supposed to make things uncomfortable for the moss, but not so extreme that the grass is wiped out, at least not with a single light spray. It's worth noting, though, that repeated heavy use can start to stress the grass roots, so the test sticks to the basic recipe in a single application. The aim is to see whether one careful dose can make a visible difference without tipping the balance too far. Day 1 passes with barely a flicker of change. The patch that got the bicarbonate treatment still sits thick and dark, every bit as green and spongy as its neighbor. If anything, the only difference is a slight dullness in the shine, so faint you'd miss it unless you were looking for a miracle. The control patch, left alone, shows no reaction at all. By day 2, repeated checks confirm what most gardeners would expect. Nothing dramatic has happened. Moss is stubborn stuff. It's built to survive cold snaps, dry spells, and the odd trampling boot. The treated area remains lush and almost untouched, with the same deep color and springy texture. The temptation to rush to a verdict is strong, but the experiment holds the line. No claims, no shortcuts, just patient observation. It's only on the 3rd morning that something starts to give. At the very edges of the treated patch, the moss begins to lose its depth of color. The green pulls back, replaced by a gray-brown haze that creeps in from the sides. The main body still holds out, but the border tells a different story. The untreated patch, meanwhile, stays defiantly green. This first sign of browning lines up with what's known about moss and alkalinity. The surface pH has shifted, and the moss is feeling the stress. The drying effect of the bicarbonate is starting to bite, but the process is slow and visible only if you're willing to wait and watch each day. By day 5, the treated patch has lost all sense of spring. The moss, once thick and dark, is now streaked with brittle brown. Pressing a hand into the area, the difference is immediate. What used to feel soft and spongy now breaks apart under gentle pressure. The texture has shifted from cushion to cornflake, the stems snapping instead of bouncing back. In contrast, the control patch just beside it still holds its deep green color and pillowy feel, unchanged by rain or sun. The weather hasn't played favorites. Both patches have seen the same drizzle and cloud, but only the treated moss has faded. By the 7th morning, the proof is in the rake. Dead moss lifts away in loose clumps, coming up with barely any resistance. What's left underneath is bare earth, a patchwork of exposed soil that hasn't seen daylight in months. There's no mat of living moss to hold it together anymore, just the raw ground that supported it all along. The grass here is sparse, the roots shallow, and the surface uneven. It's a stark reveal. While the bicarbonate has cleared the moss, it hasn't conjured up new turf or solved what made the spot vulnerable in the first place. The untreated patch, still dense and green, offers a sharp contrast. No easy raking, no bare spots, just the same thick mat as before. For anyone hoping for a quick fix, the outcome is plain. The moss can be killed, but what's left behind is a reminder that the real work may only be starting. A professional landscaper might call bicarbonate of soda a first aid kit for a mossy lawn, quick to knock back the green, but never a cure for why the moss took over in the first place. The real problems run deeper. Too much shade, compacted soil that traps water, poor drainage, mowing the grass too short, and soil that's naturally on the acidic side. Moss thrives where grass is struggling, and unless those conditions change, it's only a matter of time before the moss comes back, no matter how many times it's zapped on the surface. When it comes to moss killers, iron sulfate is the yardstick. It's the active ingredient in most commercial products and works by acidifying the soil and delivering a dose of iron that moss can't handle. The result is usually faster, more even, and covers a whole lawn in one go. But there's a price. A single treatment for 200 square meters can run 15 to 20 pounds, compared to pennies for a homemade bicarbonate spray. For small patches and tight budgets, the DIY route is tempting, but for bigger lawns or anyone wanting a quick, thorough job, commercial products are built for speed and consistency. In the end, it's the difference between patching up a problem and tackling its roots. Clearing away the dead moss exposes more than just bare earth. It lays open the real work needed to keep the patch healthy. The first job is aeration. Even a simple garden fork, pressed in every few inches, helps loosen compacted ground and lets water drain through instead of pooling on the surface. This gives grass roots a fighting chance, especially where soil has been pressed flat by years of foot traffic or heavy rain. Next comes overseeding. A handful of shade-tolerant grass seed scattered evenly across the patch and pressed in with the back of a rake starts the process of rebuilding turf. Fescues and ryegrasses cope well where sunlight is limited. If trees or tall shrubs have been casting heavy shade, thinning out low branches can make a surprising difference. Just a bit more light can tip the balance back in favor of grass. Each step is about changing the conditions that let moss take hold in the first place, not just hiding the symptoms. A cheap tub of baking soda can tip the balance against moss, but never rewrites the rules of shade, drainage, or tired grass. For most lawns, surface fixes only go so far. So what's your real battle? Moss, mud, or something deeper? Let me know how your patch compares below.